Yeah, it's rich in bubbly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm Reina Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And welcome to the official lunch table of the Fandom Menace. We are so glad that you are here with us, and we're so excited about the show we've got ready for you guys. So let me bring up my co-host, Fatron.
Oh, wait, I can take the mute off now? Thank you.
Yeah, you can.
Thank you for that permission. I feel honored I can push a button now.
You're
Hi.
welcome.
Yeah, I'm on a cycle. Hi, that can support my weight, supposedly, because unlike my weight, this cycle is fictional, so it can hold anything.
Well,
So
it is a cool cycle. I am doing well, blessed, highly favored. It's a Wednesday. I like our pop-up Wednesday shows because when we have a pop-up Wednesday show, usually that means there's something pressing or we've got a special guest that we just could not have wait until Friday.
Well, that might be for you, but for Wednesdays, for me, it's probably much reporting to my parole officer. Well, technically, it's the gym trainer, I call him. But I'm kidding. I don't have a parole officer. It's just a joke.
You call yours a PO. I call my trainer the drill sergeant.
Well, I call him Darth Vader, but I can't understand what he's yelling at me. But yeah, I hear this show, like I totally forgot about this and it blew my mind when I saw the post yesterday. We're going to have someone who is like hyper and happy. It makes me feel like a Adderall light. It's like, yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, he is full of energy, full of great passion for the fandom, and one of those people with a certain special insight into how Hollywood works. So those questions when we're just like, what the heck are they thinking? He's just like, I know what they're thinking, and this is why they're thinking that.
So you think we finally got Oprah?
Oh no,
Oh,
no. No, she's not thinking about me. She knows if she comes on, I want me a freaking car. Me a car, you a car, you get a car, you get a car.
Guess what? That car is actually a Hot Wheels under your seat. You can't drive that shit home. It's the tough home. Sorry.
Okay, well, with no further ado, let us bring on our special guests. This guy is new to some of you and basically an old friend to a lot of you. We have Kamran Pasha all the way from Hollywood. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, Lorena. It's always wonderful to see you. I don't think I've been on a channel with you before, but I'm going to be Hollywood and respect you, Mr. Body Positive Steven Seagal. And
body positive.
I got to be respectful within my industry, but it's always a delight to be with Lorena, and I hope we can have a fun show today.
Well, sir, I've seen you on a lot of shows. I've watched a lot of your panels with other channels, and you are very high energy. You're very well in depth with knowledge. You also have multiple projects, from what we understand, that you're personally running. And my tagline, as you can always remember, is "My waistline is under siege."
Well,
there you go.
I know, and then
we're living in first world problems, my friend.
Yeah,
we are. Have you seen my latte today? I have not.
If you all remember, Chris Rock did this wonderful, I don't know if can Chris Rock or Chappelle say these things anymore, but Chris Rock did this wonderful, a bit maybe 10, 15 years ago where he said, we are so rich in this country that, we're so rich that we're allergic to food. Because you go to Rwanda, nobody there is lactose intolerant. Right? People are in survival mode. There's no time for any of this stuff.
It's like Royal Rumble for peanuts over there.
Yeah.
I don't got an allergy. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's amazing the things that we take for granted in here for quote unquote, first world problems.
The only problem now is I can't really think of Chris Rock without seeing that naked ad, and then every time I see him on a commercial, I'm like, please be wearing pants. There you go.
I thought I erased that from my brain. Well, let me welcome the chat for all you folks. 22 people watching. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me and Fat Steven and our special guest, Kamran Pasha. So let's go through the chat here. RC from the NYC, my Dominican king, he says, good morning, my queen. Good day, Kamran. Greetings to the chat. Hope everyone is safe and well. We hope you're safe and well too. Thank you so much for joining us. Zachariah 315 says, good morning, Lorena, and good morning, chat. Theme Park Casual is here. It says, morning from SoCal. Well, good morning to you too. And I hope the smog is not too bad there because the smog was so bad when I lived in LA. I had to get allergy shots like every week, every freaking week. The Santa Ana winds would shift. I'd get sick.
Really?
It was a mess. It was a mess.
Holy crap! We have a superhero in the chat. We have a Mexican Iron Man in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Mexican Iron Man in the chat.
Yeah, we do, and we have a God of Mischief too. Oh my God!
Oh, okay. Well, let me get through this chat so I can acknowledge them properly. Let's see. We have. I know Stephen looks forward for me. I love it. Diablo Dame says, "Morning, all. Good morning to you, Diablo Dame. So glad you are here." Adega Outlaw says, "Heidi ho." Yeah, love that, Stephen. There you go. I know you're channeling Christy. Keck 44 says howdy to you too. Black Samurai 76, I have not seen you in quite some time. He says, yo, LOL. Well, welcome. So glad you're here. Mexican Iron Man. I heard my favorite Hollywood writer was making an appearance. Howdy all. Yes, Comfort is here with us. And Stig Kenobi. Hey, Stig. He says, hi there, Lorena and Kamran. Hope you are well. Hope you're well too, Stig. So glad you could join us. And we have the great one is here. Says, good evening, Reina Creole and Kamran Pasha. All right. And let's see. I called in late for work to see Kamran. Epic.
Don't lose your job, buddy. I ain't worth losing your job. I wish I was, but I ain't that guy.
I think he owns a taco truck, so I guess he can make his own hours.
That's fair enough.
Don't narc on yourself. I'll just say that. Hey, Mary's Game Room. She says, good morning, afternoon. Good morning, afternoon to you too, my dear. And Cavateño Che just arrived from the Valkyries. Folks, if you are not subscribed to the Valkyries channel, please do. Two awesome chicks with a wonderful, wonderful show that wraps up right before this one when we come on. So definitely check them out. Lady Miss says, hello, Lorena Creole. Hello, my dear. Cavateño says, Kamran Pasha is alive. Morning, sir.
Santa Menace forgot me. Now they want me back. They want me back before the election. That's how it works, you know.
Hey, Loki. Here's our God of Mischief. Did anyone feed Steven? If Steven doesn't get a nugget, he's going to fall over. Yeah. I sent him a nugget basket. So he should.
Yeah. That's great. So I will have salmonella poisoning by the time it gets here. That's great. All right, cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? If it's not hot when you get it, send it back.
To you?
I don't know, to the company. Send it back to Chick-fil-A. They're supposed to deliver it hot. I told them that. I can't have you getting sick, dude. I need you.
Yeah, we need the fat relief. Yeah, I get it.
Let's see. He's Parrot Head says, good morning, Lady Miss. There's according to Lady Miss. There's Kamran Salam from Hollywood, everyone. Hey, Culture Boss. The better half of Culture Casino says, thanks for making my workday better. Oh, well, thank you so much. Glad we could do that for you. Always good seeing you. Zevius is here, says, good afternoon to you all. Fist bump, good afternoon. Got 2 days of Twitter jail left of Twitter jail. 7 days for calling a blue check mark a bimbo. Yeah, the thing is, it was the protected class blue check mark. Yeah. Funny how she's still on there, considering the crap she's been accused of saying. But
well, you know, bimbo lives matter,
right? Bimbo's lives matter, but only if you think the same.
In LA, this is actually one of our central philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
It's like a superpower.
I'm kind of okay with that, but that's another.
I understand because I have channeled into that for certain things, like to not have, the parking authority ticket my car in Hollywood.
It works. It works.
Oh, we have Lord Vader that says hello, everyone. But hello to you, Lord Vader. And Subhuman 84 is with us as well. So glad you could join us, dude. And welcome. Welcome so very, very much. Oh, let's see. Yep, 25 people watching. Thank you so much. Please do hit that like button and share the stream. Let them know that Kamran is here. But before I get started, because I'm a stickler for names, because my government name would get murdered all the time and people would say it wrong. What is the correct pronunciation of your first name?
Please.
Kamran is good. It's the way that it's pronounced in my culture by my family. In America in general, people call me Cameron, and I'm perfectly fine with that because that's the name I've always heard all my life. But the official pronunciation is Kamran. The emphasis is on the A's like that. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. My name, it's funny because my mother had a certain pronunciation for my name and it never caught on. It would make my ears hurt. So I didn't find out that it was an English pronunciation until pretty much every person of Latino descent that I came across said my name the way my mother intended.
So you still have some of that privateer ancestry in you. You have a bit of an interesting ancestral background, I think.
Yeah, it's I tell people Pirates of the Caribbean is pretty much what it is. Everybody was over here in just that whole soup in the Caribbean, and it's interesting just how many different nationalities were there from like everywhere. And I think I had told people about this before, but in case you didn't know, I've been researching my family for like the past 5 years, and it all started with like a DNA test. And one of the things that stuck out was this DNA and DNA cousins that I have from like North Africa and the Middle East.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, that does not make sense because that is not a common finding in Americans of African descent. That is not a common thing. So someone had said, point blank, do you have any Spanish ancestry? I said, well, probably. They said, yeah, that's probably where it came from.
Just Moorish. You got all that Moorish ancestry. 800 years. The idea that the Moors were occupying Spain for 800 years. No, they were 800 years is that's your country, and you're meant to melt into everybody else, right?
Exactly. And it's just amazing all of that. And I would tell people that on the African coast, like from, I guess, where Cameroon is now, like that Cameroon, Cape Verde area there, and also East Africa, both of those sides had diplomatic relationships with Spain and with Portugal long before they came to the New World. So there were enclaves of acculturated Africans or Africans who were born there, the societies that were just like prevalent between southern Spain and I want to say that area around like where Morocco is right now. It's like all of that.
West Africa, yeah.
So it's neat. You never know by looking at somebody what their background is.
But and that's such an important thing today. But where much of the conversation is about race, and it's interesting how people then divide it in ways that are self-serving, right? Rather than actually looking at reality, that's a lot more of a soup than we're willing to admit.
It really is. And when people talk to me about the 1619 project, which I've blown to bits several times, it's just like one.
Your ancestors were here before 1619.
Way before 1619. It's like it's like, when did Columbus get to the Caribbean? 1492. His navigator was African. There were a whole bunch of they were not enslaved, free Africans and conquistadors that came to the Caribbean. And
they established colonies in Florida too. Yeah.
And that's what they did. So way before 1619, not all of them were enslaved. And it's,
it is a rewriting of history for another political narrative. I mean, that's the thing is we've certainly had a writing of history in a certain way over the last couple hundred years, which has not been complete or accurate. And now we're having this extreme other rewriting, which is very intentional, that erases a lot of other aspects of history. It's like,
exactly. Exactly. High entertainment in Star Wars. People just judge based on looks. They are surprised once they get to know someone. Yes, it's you also never know who's in someone's background. There's a show out on Showtime right now that's called The Good Lord Bird.
Okay, I'm not.
And
I don't want that.
yeah, it's about John Brown. Are you familiar with who he
I'm
is?
certainly familiar with John Brown. I should actually then watch that. I would.
Yeah, John Brown is actually a distant cousin of mine.
Wow.
Because there's a branch of my family that were from New England, and they were carpetbaggers that came to Florida at the end of the Civil War.
Yeah.
So that is a very interesting miniseries where things are not black and white, and what they go into with the history of it. It's really interesting. It's really
now I have to check that out, because I love historical fiction. I write a lot of historical fiction, and so this is his history itself, and I'm fascinated.
It's history, and not only that, it's a portion of history of my family's history that I have the most documented, because I had to. It's like that time period between 1860 and 1880. So it's like that time before the Civil War through Reconstruction. So seeing that history play out, but also see that history played out from the standpoint of people who were enslaved at that time, because a lot of Civil War historical fiction shows and miniseries, you really don't get that perspective. So it's interesting.
It is the. I work in the industry. It's the real white savior phenomenon, where it's always that point of view. It's what it's what Spike Lee said about why he completely independently financed Malcolm X, primarily from African American celebrities who gave him money. He said, "I don't do it, because if it was done through the studio system, it would be a white reporter following Malcolm around." I mean,
exactly, and that's not interesting. That's not what we want to say. And I want to say, hey, Karen Prime. She says, "Good evening, good afternoon, friends." Lorena, so your name is meant to be pronounced the English way. Excellent, the correct way. Then, you know what? If I'm in the United States, yes, it is the correct English way. But if I go to any Latin American country or any Latin American function, I'll answer to it pronounced the Spanish way. Great one is here, says, "I call myself a mutt, and there's a lot on my father's side no one knows." Yeah, there's a lot with different people, especially adoptees that I run into. They know nothing about their family, and they DNA test to try to find out more about their family.
Well, they've done DNA tests on Viking remains and found Middle Eastern and Persian ancestry, because the Vikings were interacting a lot with the Middle East. They actually had diplomatic relations with the Arab Caliphate, right? And so, and we found like Islamic texts in burial sites of Vikings. So it's like, and I've seen like white nationalists hold up the Viking. I was like, man, even those guys were mutts, man. Come on, let's get serious here.
It's interesting. Some people just, they really don't want to. They don't want to hear what the real deal actually was, because it blows a lot of narratives to bits. Terminus, thank you so much for tipping $2, dude. I so appreciate it. I appreciate it very, very, very much. And let's see, in other news, Fat Steven recently got 500 subs. The local sandwich shop went out of business.
Again with this? Bro, you used that last week too. Come on. But thank you.
The thing is, I'm imagining that body positive Steven here, because I just got to be respectful. Body positive.
Call me fat. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I gotta keep my career. So body positive Steven here. I have to imagine that if we actually ever saw you, you'd be like this skinny 92-pound like guy, right? I mean, it has to be that, right?
195 to 6'4".
That's not bad.
There you go.
I like to keep people happy that there's someone
else.
It's all
muscle, man. It's all muscle. It's LA.
Yeah, my mouth is one giant muscle. It never stops talking. Yep. But I was going to say, back to like when you're talking about stuff, my mom's side is from Chemnitz in Germany.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What your mom's side?
My mom's side's from Chemnitz. That's all the way up in Germany.
Okay.
And my dad's side is like they all came over from the Europe, and their background is like Irish, English, Welsh, and Scandinavian. So I don't think I can get any whiter.
You'd be surprised. There's been again, because we all focus on our own heritage. I coming from the Muslim world. There's a lot of evidence of Irish, North African Muslim interaction going back to the Dark Ages. Going back to 9th century. They found Arabic coins in archaeological sites. There's likely to have been some intermingling, because human beings always end up doing the thing when they meet up, right? And Ireland was interacting with the Arab world before England was.
That's amazing.
That
Because like
is cool.
I never delved into it, but before my grandfather passed, he actually had a book of all the last names for our last name, right? And this book was over 3,000 pages, and
Wow.
it had every of the last. I'm not saying last name. I'm not doxing myself. Where they came from, who they related to, their mothers, their fathers. So it was like an ancestry online, but in a
Mhm.
book. It was one of those things you cherished.
Cool.
That's
Hey,
fantastic.
Runner. Runner says, hey, guys. Hey, guys. Folks, like 27 people watching. Thank you so much. So, Kamran,
Mhm.
for those people who are not familiar with who you are and are probably seeing this video for the first time and landed here, tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and how you wound up in Hollywood, of all places.
Sure. Well, I am a screenwriter and director and novelist. That's what I do professionally. I work in the Hollywood industry. I've done a lot of television, and I've worked on shows. A few of them you may have heard of. I've worked on, my big show was Sleeper Cell, which is a big show on Showtime, about a Muslim FBI agent who infiltrates Al Qaeda, that got a lot of awards and attention.
Mhm.
Then I worked on some fun genre shows. I worked on Bionic Woman at NBC. I worked on Nikita on the CW. Most recently, I worked on Roswell, New Mexico on the CW, and the remake of that. And so I've had an interesting broad range career. I've published a couple of novels, like historical fiction novels set in the Middle East. And my background is I was born in Pakistan, immigrated to the US when I was 3 years old, grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. So you got this Pakistani Muslim kid growing up surrounded by really Orthodox Jews. And that was fascinating for me. I actually studied religion in college because I've always been fascinated by religion. It links to my fascination with history, but I've always been someone who has been interested in religion personally, as well as what it means for people. And people have often asked me, why would you have studied that in college, and how does that link to what you do now? Religion is the greatest storytelling. It is. Hollywood thinks it has influence. You don't have more influence than the Bible or the Quran, right? You don't have more influence. Civilizations are being created by these stories, because these stories are that powerful that they give people a complete paradigm to make sense of life in the universe. And Hollywood tries to mimic that. That's why some of the best movies have always been biblical movies, right? And they're trying to catch that shadow of that.
Like the 10 Commandments.
My favorite movie is the 10 Commandments. That's the first movie I saw in America as a kid, watching. They do the
Really?
I remember it vividly. I'll tell you why. I would have been 4 years old, so it would have been 1976. We had just immigrated a few months before. I just learned basic English from watching cartoons, right? Let Me Kill a Gorilla and all those fun cartoons. And it would have been 1976. I remember our little apartment that we had in Queens, New York, and it's very vivid for me because it's very personal. My dad put on, and every year they do that on Passover. Still to this, like ABC puts on the 10 Commandments Passover. I know when it was Passover in 1976, and so he put it on, and we're watching this on my little TV that we had in those days when you had channels, right? And I was blown away. I'd never seen anything like it. I was 4 years old, and the Red Sea is splitting open. The sea is turning to blood, and you've got Ramses,
Yul Brenner.
Yul Brenner. I mean, that's a good-looking Ramses, and you got Charlton Heston, and it's a really powerful movie to this day. And I remember watching it with my heart racing, like when the pillar of fire, God speaks to the pillar of fire and creates the 10 Commandments. So when it was all over, I was so blown away by it. My heart was pounding, and I turned to my father. And I was 4 years old. It's one of my earliest memories. I turned to my father and I said, "What is God?" I never even thought about it, right? My family was religious, but it's just like, it's just the ocean you're swimming. You don't even think about it, right? You're a little child. So I said, "What is God?" And my father took me in his lap and he said these words, which I still think are the most profound definition of God I've ever heard. He said, "God is the light of the universe, and Moses saw one ray." And I said, that's very, very mystical, very profound. And that stayed with me and guided me spiritually and personally. And that movie guided me in many ways to become a storyteller. I've written several biblical epics that haven't been made yet. Hopefully they'll be made someday. But that movie has a lot of deep meaning for me.
That movie, it's, that was, oh, hey, Dimash and I, thanks for dropping by. We are two Brooklyn dudes in here now.
Borough Park.
But that movie, it was one of the first movies that I bought on Blu-ray, because it's one of those movies, and oh God, I'm dating myself. When it came out like on VHS, and like my dad got it and we sat and we watched it. That was a movie through generations of people because of that story. You just got so sucked into it, sucked into the costuming, the sets, the epic, just
And it's really
scale.
emotional. I mean, it's a really emotional movie. It's really good characters. There's no, you have good guys and bad guys, but even the bad guys, I mean, Yul Brynner plays this very complex Ramesses, right? And that moment when his son dies, like in the final curse, for the eldest son,
Yes.
and he's holding back tears, and he's like Mr. Masculine, manly man, and and then he just says Moses to go because he's lost his son, so he's lost all purpose. He doesn't even care anymore about anything, right?
He's just broken.
I mean, it's this incredible thing. You're like, you care about these villains, right? I mean, in Islam, especially, Pharaoh is seen as the epitome of evil, and the presentation of it is a complex human being that has been thrown to something that's really left him deeply scarred.
And that's also another testament to excellent storytelling. When you can care, either you deeply will hate a character, that means the writing is good, but it's even better when they do something to make you say, okay, there's that glimmer of humanity that I can actually kind of empathize with. I still hate you, but I can kind of see why.
It's the empathy. You are within me. It is possible that I could have become you had things gone differently. And that's connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Crispy Critter says theology is the cornerstone of a society. You want to learn about mankind, learn about how he worships.
I fully agree.
Very good. Very good. Let's see.
This would be kind of like going into a segue because it's kind of let's like Star Wars for a generalization and latest books that came out about a certain point.
Hey, Lorena. Oh, hey, Iggy Six Figures. How are you? He says Lorena looking as beautiful as ever. Stay blessed. Thank you so much. Are you guys talking about the Ridley Scott version?
No, we're talking about the Cecil B. DeMille movie from the 1950s with Charlton Heston, which is actually a remake. There was a silent film version of it done in the 1920s, and I mean the special effects in the 1920s. You're like, you got to be kidding me! And they have the Red Sea splitting in 1920s, where they don't even know how to make sound. I mean, DeMille is one of my personal heroes because he was this incredible filmmaker who understood the audience and he advanced the entire art. He was up there with Orson Welles. He created modern cinema.
He really is. I mean, I remember a film class that I took in college. Besides Citizen Kane, The Ten Commandments was another movie that was used just because of Cecil B. DeMille and how he directed, and he affected a whole bunch of other directors too. How classic the scenes are and the set is, and how he took the shots, and how it's absolutely
and I'd like to make the comparison to Ridley Scott's movie. Now, Ridley Scott is a director I deeply admire. A lot of his movies are superb. That movie is. It doesn't compare to Cecil DeMille, even though it's got more modern special effects, and it's got actors and a superb director. But the problem is that story of that movie is sort of Hollywood modern postmodernist reinterpretation of that, where the existence, it's not really God that's doing anything. These are events, like natural forces that are happening, and is Moses hallucinating the vision he's having, and it's seen from this postmodernist Hollywood secular, frankly, atheist point of view of how to look back at that history, right? I'm like, man, that's not what works, man. What works is the power of the story, which DeMille captured. That this is a story of a man seeking God and being confronted by God, and it's a real thing, and that's what touches people. It's not this effort to deconstruct it.
Absolutely. Let's see, Demajani has a really good point here. Lorena, the villain is the cornerstone of your movie. If done right, it can make the movie. If done wrong, not so much. Absolutely.
Star Wars.
Absolutely.
That in both real Star Wars and fake Star Wars.
And congrats on the 1K. Thank you. Yes, that's what I was telling. And actually, I remember in high school English class, and we're reading Shakespeare, and we're going through these, and we're talking about the elements of the story. And I remember my English teacher saying, if your villain is not believable, if your villain does not seem as if he cannot be beaten, your story has no purpose. Your villain has no purpose.
Yeah.
But
you
you can
know.
say the same thing also for heroes, right? If you make a hero too overpowered, it ruins the whole
Yes,
point of having a hero
exactly.
overcoming
because
that.
because they are shadows
Yeah,
of each
it's like, oh, you were born with every superpower. Well, let me
Mhm.
sit back, make a coffee, and you go save the universe while I try to find something more interesting, like a villain trying to beat the hero. Because if a hero becomes too powerful, it has become the villain because you feel sorry more for the actual villain who can't get
Mhm.
anything done because they made one person more powerful. That storytelling, especially with fake wars, is that. Oh my god!
Well, that's also happened with like with Disney. One movie that
Mhm.
I loathe. Okay, it's like I love Disney. Sleeping Beauty is one of my favorite movies from that time. Animated, Mary Blair, I love it. Maleficent is the baddest chick ever.
Uh
You're
huh.
not going to invite me to see this baby? Okay, I'm going to curse all of you and curse that kid. She was unapologetically evil. Okay. Fast forward to that travesty of a remake that Disney did called Maleficent.
where you humanize her essentially. It was, and yeah, so
Yeah. No. It's like that's not what I want to see. That's not what I'm interested in seeing. That's not what I want. Maleficent is supposed to be unapologetically evil. That's why we love to see it when she loses.
I also have a complaint.
Good-
Lorena,
good.
you are too good looking to be for this show right now, and I'm just mocking a certain point of view right now.
Really?
Everyone hits on you, Lorena. No one hits on me on these podcasts. Can someone hit on me? Can someone
Hey,
hit
hey,
on
hey,
me?
Oh, well,
Kamran,
you look
Kamran,
fabulous. You look
Kamran,
fabulous,
I'm
Cameron.
sorry.
Oh, I'll get it out. I'll get it out. I'll
how
get it
you
out
doing,
because I love men who are shaven bald, partially
Mr.
bald.
Clean?
It's
Yeah,
very hot.
Yul Brenner.
Dude messed me up for life.
Yeah, I mean that's master dude, man. Could you imagine Yul Brenner dealing with modern,
Oh my
with
gosh.
modern woke people?
Yeah, Mary, I hated that darn movie. I'm so glad I didn't pay actual money to see it. I saw it on TV. Terminus says, Kamran, when are you going on the Dark
You
Council?
better ask Abu Nas because I've been asking that for months. And Abu Nas is my Muslim brother, and he's a friend of mine. And he's always like, soon, inshallah, soon. So I don't know. Maybe I ain't dark enough for it, but I'm
Shots
You know
fired.
what? If Jay is dark enough to be on the Dark Council, so are you.
it's a little bit of a club there, but it's a little bit of a club. I'm trying to break through the club.
As long as you make it before Jay's koala guest, you'll be good.
Oh my
We had a
goodness.
bunch of these Aussie dudes who I love. Those are great guys. Man, what are these pasty white dudes on? I can't get on the show.
We'll do some talking to Abu Das, but yeah, we'll see what kind of,
Get your
hey
armor.
dude, remember? Theme Park Casual says flaws are necessary for a character hero or villain to be relatable and believable.
Yeah, because it kind of makes how you can develop role models with either a hero or a villain because of the struggles they go to, because the viewer or the reader watches these people grow and overcome, and they could relate to how their life has been going. And that's how it debases a role model from fictional or reality characters.
Thanks, Damaj and I.
Sorry to cut you off.
I'd love to be on. I feel that would be a major break. It'd be a bigger breakthrough than trying to break through in Hollywood is to get onto the Dark Council. I feel like I'd finally be in the cool club. Everyone in Hollywood is that kid who wasn't cool in junior high. I'm still that kid, and now I'm on YouTube and I'm still trying to break through the cool area. Whatever, it is what it is.
Denied. There's no such thing as cool. That mentality, eventually you realize as you grow up, doesn't matter if you're cool or not because it's just
it matters in Hollywood. If there's a
we're not in Hollywood right now. You know what? I don't think coolness has anything to do with it. As long as you bring yourself, your honest self, and you bring what you know down to the table, those are the people that are going to respect you in the end. And that's what makes, if you want to say air quotes, cool. Cool is never something more than a word, in my opinion.
That's something a cool person would say.
Yeah. However,
I am not cool, bro. I got beat up a lot in school.
That's what I'm saying. It's something an uncool person would say.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we're all cool.
But inside that Hollywood bubble, it's like, oh my, you people are really weird.
No, but I don't.
Towards
Hollywood is something else, let me tell you. Hold on, let's see. Somebody is here. 32 people watching. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. And I'm trying to remember some of these. Yes, Demonstrate says the villain is the cornerstone. Oh, wait, already did that. No, there's another one.
I want to comment on these comments about the nature of villain, because some of you may know I'm a Sufi mystic, which Sufis are like the mystics of Islam, right? And so one of the great Sufi mystics was a man named Rumi, one of the great poets, and he wrote this incredible poem called the Masnavi, which is like the Odyssey. It's this huge epic, and there's a scene in the Masnavi where we learn something about Pharaoh. Now, this isn't like in the Quran. This is his poem, right? But the Pharaoh in this scene in the poem, you discover Pharaoh is actually a believer. He's more devout than Moses, and he's having a private prayer to God. It's like, I don't want to play this job. Everyone's gonna this job you've given me, the role that I have to play to be the villain of the story. I don't want it. And then God responds, but without you, Moses can't be the hero of the story. So the greatest sacrifice you're going to do for me is you're going to go along with this and pretend to be the villain and do everything I tell you to do, which is to hassle Moses, right? And so it's this thing of Pharaoh is actually like, I don't want the job, man, because I'm not this person. He's like, but you have to be this person in order for Moses to be what he has to be. That's a pretty profound thought.
That's actually pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see.
It's like the bigger person mentality. Sometimes you have to do the thing you don't want to do to accomplish a goal that will better everyone in the end.
You know what, Alex? Oh, go ahead, Kamran.
No, I wanted to give a reference. There, because I study all mysticism and all religions, and with it, there's some of the Gnostic gospels that were uncovered in the 1940s. There's a fascinating gospel called the Gospel of Judas, right? And that's obviously, this isn't one of the canonical gospels, but it's interesting that early Christians had this gospel in which Judas actually is in on the plan to betray Jesus. Jesus tells him to do it, and Judas is like, I don't want to do it. So you see, this is an idea that keeps popping up. This is older than Islam. This is one of the early gospel texts that wasn't accepted by the church. But early Christians had this story where Judas is told by Jesus, go do this, and you're going to be the villain of the story. But it needs to be for this salvation story to play out. And Judas reluctantly plays the role of the villain. And that's a 2,000-year-old gospel that shows that this idea, at least, was present in early Christianity.
Kamran, can I ask a quick question towards that, though? Would that be considered the anti-villain, like the anti-hero?
Well, I mean, the anti-hero is usually the hero that's not a good guy, right? It's like Steve McQueen or Clint Eastwood in the 70s movies, where
be a villain that's not a good guy.
Exactly. So he is actually a villain. He's the reluctant villain. I guess there is this hidden archetype of the reluctant villain, which is by its very nature hidden. It's beneath the surface of these stories.
Let's see, Kamran. There's two things I wanted to see. So Justin says, Kamran, hey Justin. That's my co-host for This Week in BS on his channel on Thursdays at 7 p.m. And Latino Slant is here, and Latino Slant would be honored to have you on, Kamran. He says Kai, but he met Kamran.
Yeah, so. I know. It's just typo. I always do, when I'm writing emails to famous and powerful people, I always have a very obvious typo that makes me look like a moron. So you don't look like a moron. So that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd be honored to be on.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. His show's cool. His show's cool, and it's Justin's as well.
And it's Latino, it's Latinx, and as anyone follows me on Twitter, I have an issue with Latinx, as in fact, all of my Latino friends have an issue with it.
That would be a really cool conversation to have on his channel. I'm sure Paulie has lots of opinions about that. Let's see if we got everyone here. Make sure I got every times. Clobberin Times is here. Hello, my dude. How are you? Glad you are here. Karen Prime says, Kamran, you'll be excellent in the Dark Council, caught you first of Midnight's Edge, and have enjoyed listening to what you have to say ever since. Respect, sir.
I'm honored by that. So you got to talk to Drunk 3P and all those guys who are like, yeah, soon, one day.
Yeah, we'll get them in there. And Crispy Critters, villains are always in conflict, especially with themselves. My favorite modern villain asks one who asks, am I right in what I'm doing? Just like a hero.
Because sometimes the villains are actually written to believe that they are doing the right thing, even though others see it as evil. So yeah,
and that's again the brilliance of George Lucas in his original movies. In the prequels, the point is made: the Sith don't see themselves as bad guys. Good is a point of view, and the further you go into the EU, which we know our friend Laura has gone very deep into it, but the idea is very clear: the Sith have a philosophy, which is an old sort of left-hand path philosophy on earth in mystical tradition, which is that, look, these people that are calling themselves good, they're just stagnant. They're sitting there kissing each other's butts and not growing and not challenging another and holding each other back and being mediocre. And
they're not getting involved.
Yeah, and they take people who could be great and suppress them so they can control them. And so the idea is all of life is conflict. And so let's be honest about that and let's challenge each other and grow. That's actually, from their point, that's not a bad philosophy. You can argue about the actions that they take, but the idea is that that's not exactly wrong.
Delivery I agree. The delivery can be horrible, but when it comes down to it, is that if you believe you're doing something right, and it's like basis of opposite opinions. If there's no opinion fighting another opinion, or criticism and anti-criticism, you can never have an evolution of people being better than they are, because we need to grow by learning on what others think and either learn to accept what they think or grow from it and accept that we are always going to have a different base.
And maybe we have something to offer them in the challenge that we provide, right? And Dimajani, I'd be honored if you guys bring me on. So I'm around and would love to come on, and it's all cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Let me get to a couple of more of these chats here before we move to the last subject, which I know is going to take quite some time to talk about, probably through to the end of the show, but it will definitely be worth it. Parrothead says, personally, I think of the Fandom Menace and Geeks and Gamers as the cool kids, LOL.
Yeah, all of us uncool kids in junior high school thought we were the cool kids, but we kind of knew we weren't, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And here's Rob, who says, hi, Reina Creole. Heard Gary at Nerdrotic shout you out. Hi, Rob. So nice that you are here. Yes, Gary was very generous to shout me out. I am deeply appreciative.
Get your hands off me, you 58.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw that. One of my favorite old school movies, the one where Charlton Heston in it. Yeah, that's what I like. Gary is one of those channels. He's been out there from the beginning, supporting so many folks, especially the smaller channels. So definitely grateful to him for shouting me out and for bringing you here. So thank you. And Alex Kogan says, I'm part Mexican, and anyone who unironically uses Latinx needs to be put in Arkham Asylum.
Hollywood is kind of Arkham Asylum with everyone free. I mean, it kind of is that.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people on the ground.
I'm used to crazy people in Philly, but when I moved to LA, that was crazy on a whole nother level. Like, wow. I did not expect to see that in broad daylight.
Can I ask one quick question from both of you? I sorry to interrupt, but if you had a choice to be either the hero or the villain, or the anti-hero, the anti-villain, what would you choose? Both of you.
I'll let Reina answer first, and then I have my thoughts.
I always pass it off to you first.
Because she's the lady and she's lovely. That's
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll work, man.
But you are the guest, so if you want to answer first, please go ahead.
And I pass it on to.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all right. All right. Southern relatives, I got to do the polite thing. Can't have bad manners. Bad manners in the South, that's like fate worse than death. Can't do that. I would be the anti-hero. And the reason why is it's kind of like how I tell people, like when it comes to Star Wars, Darth Vader is my favorite character. Not because he's the villain and he gets to do villain types of things, but it's like, what made him that way? What made him that way? And it's like, what is it about a person that could make them go to the side like that? And what happened if they didn't? But if they didn't, what if they kept some of those tendencies, to themselves? Like, okay, I could go to the dark side and do this evil thing, or I could say, you know what, I can learn from that and kind of look out for that. And kind of do it that way. I more identify with the person who does not want to be the hero until something happens where they have no choice but to be the hero.
I can actually kind of agree with
your perspective.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I thought Mr. Body Positive Steven Seagal was going to.
Everyone's gonna start tagging me as bodily positive Steven Seagal by the end of the day. But no, I can kind of agree with you with that because I watch a lot of anime in my spare time, right? And a lot of anime has those types of heroes, like the ones that have, and with anime, they nail it so well with an emotional attachment, like with me. Like I'll even go back to say with Sailor Moon. Like Sailor Moon had a great love story, especially the deep dubs. And from there, it branched off into other stuff I watched, like Gundam and all that stuff. And the anti-hero, I think, has a harder trial than a hero that is just destined because it's in the lore or it's in the prophecy. The anti-hero, I think, has to not only deal with their dark more, but their light. With a normal hero, you might have to face dark, but if you're not facing the dark within yourself, I don't think you're going to be a better hero. Does that make sense?
Go a little deeper on that. I want to understand it a little bit more.
Okay.
That's an interesting idea.
Let's say you've been chosen. Let's get sucked into a different world.
Okay.
You don't know why you're there. You don't know what's going on, but you're supposed to save the world. But you don't care about that world because all you want to do is get back home. You don't think you deserve to save the world because you don't like yourself enough.
Okay, so that's those sort of self-hatred elements holding you back, right? Okay.
Yeah, but as you start learning that you're capable of doing things because you have to trust what you were given, whether you want it or not, it makes you see that your self-worth is a betterment for yourself and not for others. Like you can have everyone give you a compliment, but if you don't see that compliment as who you are, you will never see you as more than the thing you put yourself down as. So it's like a self-detriment hero in a way.
Well, what you've described is actually an archetype in storytelling and religious storytelling. One of the interesting things about the Moses story is that he actually has a speech impediment. No one ever talks about that, and it's never shown in any of these movies, right? But I know definitely in the Quran, and I believe in the Bible as well, Moses is afraid to talk, right? And again, I know the Quranic story a little bit better. So the Quranic story, when God says go to Pharaoh, he says, I can't. I would stutter. I don't know how you want me to communicate with him. I can't do it. And then God says, well, okay, I'll give you Aaron to support you. Mm-hmm. Support. But it's like fine. If you need this placebo, I'll give it to you. And then he ends up becoming the spokesperson. And throughout, if you study religious history, throughout, it's always people's weaknesses that they're forced to address in order to become the hero of the story, right? In their self-doubts. And that's why these religious stories keep working, because they understand human psychology so well. So I would agree with you on that archetype that you need, the person sees themselves as not the hero and yet has to become the hero, I think is primordial to our experience.
Because it relates so well with reality, because a lot of people have such a not a hateful, but a demeaning self-image that they're always fighting every day. And I've run into a lot of people, whether it be on YouTube or in person, that as much as they get a compliment, it makes them uncomfortable because they don't know how to take it, because they're not used to it. And I feel like that's a hero that it's not getting over, let's say, Darth Vader. It's getting over your own self to see that you are just as worthwhile as the next person beside you. And that lesson not only can bring people to tears, accepting it, but it's the giving the trust to those other people and hoping they don't hurt you when you open up that superpower. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. So I think that I wanted to go deeper into that because I wanted to understand what you're saying, because I felt there was some very profound truth that I needed to get to, and I think you've expressed that really nicely. Maybe
I kind of developed myself a little bit more into like saying that, but that's anime has different parts of myself when I watch different series, because if you ever heard something called Eureka 7.
Okay.
Renton this is a guy, Renton, who had to pilot a Nervosh, who was like a living kind of robot. And not only was it a love story developing with a girl who was created from the coral, he had no idea that he was realizing that when he was piloting the robot and fighting other Earth forces, he was actually killing people, to one episode where he got a visual on his screen and looked down and saw a bloody hand with a ring on the finger, and it all clicked in him. And then he went down this spiral. The spiral of, I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm actually killing people. And it hit me in a way where I'm like, you don't realize the actions and the repercussions until you see it firsthand. And that's like giving trust out to other people, because people, they can be great to your face, but they can hurt you in a second. And that's the thing that terrifies me the most. Trust.
Well, it's like this. I mean, look at the great heroes of war stories, right? Of just World War II. I mean, you have people like Eisenhower and all these people. They hated war. They hated war through experience, right? War is a theoretical thing for a lot of its planners, and then you actually have to be on the battlefield and watch people dying and having to kill your adversary with your own hands. And, they walk out of this saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, even we'll talk about the South, even General Sherman, right? General Sherman has like 1,000-page autobiography that I have, right? And Sherman, he was a ruthless guy, right? And he's like, man, war is hell. I didn't want to, do you think I want to do any of this stuff? I didn't want to burn out Atlanta. It's a beautiful city. I didn't want to kill these people. It's what I had to do to protect my country, and I hated it. And that's a perspective you never hear about from Sherman.
Yeah, but that you can relate to today. What was going on, let's say, a couple months ago, with the burning down and the destruction of cities. Has there been any people who have contributed to that even say, I don't want to do this anymore, and I feel bad for it?
No, that's why
the emptiness that bothers me.
Totally
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, though? Like, you don't ever hear, like, even just a side project that people do like that. Like, you don't see anyone have a soul afterwards saying, I don't feel empty. Don't feel not empty for what we've done.
Yeah, and I'm sure there will be people who, through this experience, will be transformed, right? But right now, in this current moment, it's not the narrative of these people saying, maybe I shouldn't have, we saw what happened in Philly last night. I mean, primarily African businesses being looted, right? I was like, how is this Black Lives Matter, man? I mean, how are you destroying this person's livelihood and the business they built up all their lives? And as Lorena knows, I'm a very big follower of Malcolm X, and people been citing Malcolm X. You think Malcolm X would have supported breaking into anybody's home to commit? I mean, he was all about followed law and order. He was all about that. Build up your self-respect, build up business, build up dignity,
build up your communities, protect your community, but burning down your own community. No, he definitely wouldn't.
Even if you
he wanted to separate from it. He didn't want to burn them down. He's like, I just want to get away from all of this, but I'm not gonna harass the white person, and despite projecting onto him. So
the last thing that I kind of wanted to get into for our last part, because the interesting thing is how I met Kamran actually was on Twitter, but the reason that I met him on Twitter was because I found out that he was using The Last Jedi to teach about bad screenwriting. And I'm like, okay, this is the perfect bad example. When I saw The Last Jedi, I was so pissed off. I didn't watch anything Star Wars for like a year because I felt so insulted as a fan. Let me preface this. If you love The Last Jedi, that's great. More power to you. You like what you like. But for those of us who did not like it, we had such a visceral reaction to it. I had never felt so insulted as a fan for this particular movie. So Kamran, how did it come about that you decided to use The Last Jedi to teach about bad screenwriting?
Well, I share with you your perspective, and I've been very open about it. I was so excited for the Last Jedi because I had been a fan of Rian Johnson. I'd enjoyed Looper, and I thought this guy is a really interesting director. And then I sat in the movie. I was like, what the hell am I watching? And by the end, I was literally like, please, God, let this end. Please let this end. I just want to get out of here. Please let this end. And when it ended, there wasn't even any applause. People just staring at the screen, right? And like, what the hell have we seen, right? People walked out of there. It was like walking out of a funeral. It was just silence, right? And my friend who I was with, who was a very woke guy, who's just like woke, and follow whatever the woke is. He's like, man, that was the best movie I'd ever seen. I was like, uh-huh. Right. And I just got in my car and went home, and I couldn't sleep that night. I literally couldn't sleep because I was so full of anger and despair that the trends that I'd seen in Hollywood of this kind of bad storytelling being used for political purposes had reached something that was so sacred to me. So I had, and this is interesting because people on the internet question, they're like, man, I can't find Kamran Pasha on the faculty of any of these universities. I'm like, guess what? I'm not on the faculty of any of these. I'm a screenwriter, but I get invited to universities to give talks about screenwriting because I've actually developed my own method of screenplay structure. And so I've given talks at Columbia University. I've given talks at University of Chicago. I've given talks at Harvard, right? And I've given talks at small colleges. And I've been doing that for the last 15 years. And so I was then invited again after The Last Jedi to come. I went back to my alma mater, Dartmouth, which is where I graduated from. And it was literally about 2 weeks after The Last Jedi. And I gave a talk to the students. And I said, this is 2 weeks later where people were still saying, this is the official story is this is the best Star Wars movie ever. And there's only a small group of fans who didn't like it, were racist, right? And I was like, And I
Right.
talked about it in the class, and I was like, "Look, this is an example of Hollywood." I said, "I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I actually think I do." And I said, "This is what's going to happen: is that this is going to be remembered as one of the biggest business disasters in Hollywood history because you've destroyed a franchise by doing this by skewing the storytelling and attempting to turn it upside down for some weirdo political, subverting narrative." And I said, "This is going to destroy this franchise, and it's going to be remembered. There'll be business school cases about this in the years to come." And I seemed like a crazy person at the time. And then 2 or 3 years later, when it started becoming more and more, 2 or 3 days when it started becoming more and more, apparent to everyone what is happening, they started coming out, like Forbes and others started doing articles about that, right? And so that was right after 2 weeks after I went to Dartmouth, and I did a talk about it and explained why the Last Jedi doesn't work. And then after that, I was invited to University of Oregon, which is University of Oregon, and I gave a lengthy talk about screenwriting to the students at University of Oregon, and I dissected the Last Jedi there too. And these were, what's interesting is, even since I've been doing these college talks for about 15 years now, it was fascinating to watch how literally within that 2 years of Trump being elected and and the Last Jedi and all this come out, the kids were very different. Like the kids were all woke. I mean, like 2 years before, I was like talking to normal kids, right? In college. 2 years later, everyone is spouting systemic racism and this and that, and just spouting stuff. I'm like, man, what are you kids talking about, man? Do you even know what you're saying? Do you even understand what you're saying? And so I sort of gently understood these kids are being taught all kinds of crap suddenly, right? That I'd never heard before 2 years before in the universities, right? And and I was like, all right, so let me talk about why the Last Jedi doesn't work from a systemic point of view. And it was just interesting to watch how academia had radically changed in 2 years.
Wow.
See, it's not even that with Last Jedi. I hate to cut in, but it's not that it was a really crap movie. It was horrible to not only the fictional characters that the actors were doing, but it pretty much ruined the actors themselves with the writing for their scripts. It was in the face. It was like watching like a Dave Chappelle skit with Rick James, and all he was doing was slapping everyone till everyone was just no more words, because they felt like their childhood memories of who they grew up with was ripped out of their heart and then stomped on.
And it was intentional, because like I said, I watched this increasingly over the last few years. I've watched, I mean, Hollywood has always had people who like, let's subvert that stupid subvert expectations, but I'd never seen it start dominating the storytelling discussions in writers' rooms until essentially after Trump won. And then it became predominant conversation on shows that I was involved in, the projects that I was doing, where executives were like, well, we've got to really address, the systemic problems that have led to white racism, that have led to Trump. I was like, man, I don't think you understand what's happening in this country. And I don't think what we're doing is actually going to serve the purpose you think it's going to serve.
Hey, Abu Nas.
Hey, now's your chance, Cameron. Now's your chance. Ask him now.
I've already asked Abu Nas. I bothered him enough. Abu Nas, they were all like, you got to be on the dog council. I'm like, man, brothers don't want me on. Demonte didn't look into it. I ain't black enough. I ain't black enough. Which is kind of true. But
You know what? I'm sorry. On that note, we got to do this. Don't complain that that you're not black enough. Okay, don't do that, because you know what? This got done to me.
It only works if you ladies were black.
So what the heck am I?
You're not kidding.
So don't feel bad.
I know my brother's a Joe Biden supporter, so you're following your candidate, my brother.
You ain't never living that down, Abu. Never.
No, we love you for that.
We love you. See, that's the thing, is what I love about this community is we have a broad range of perspectives. Abu Nas, I've never met him in person. I've been on one of his live streams, deeply, yeah, we're gonna change that soon, brother. Yeah. So I mean, I've never met Abu Nas in person. Yet I feel like I know him on a spiritual level. Like I've been on one of his live streams, following around, and we have different. He's a fellow Muslim. He has certain politics. I had certain politics, and yet we are friends, right? That's what this community is about.
Absolutely, yeah. But you're right. It's like people forget, and it's sad to see what's happened with the fandom, because for years it was just all about, we had heated discussions and all of that, but at the end we were all fans, and and it was, and it was cool. We were passionate about the fandom. We wanted to create friends. Now it's just, God forbid, you shouldn't like a movie or
I saw
great politics. Ugh.
I saw a news program from 1983 when Return of the Jedi came out. Right, it was a local news like ABC7 going up to this massive crowd of people that were waiting to see Return of the Jedi, and they were interviewing people, and it was an incredibly diverse crowd. Every ethnicity, every race was there, and they were all hanging out together. Several of the interviews were with passionate young African-American Black kids who were like, I love the one Black woman was like Darth Vader. It was incredible what they did with him. Yes. And she was there with her white girlfriend, and it was like, this is 1983, man. 1983, this movie brought everybody together. Everybody. This just, the crowd was like, oh my God. Everyone's like, Lando Cal. Nobody's even thinking, well, Lando Calrissian, identify with them. People are just flown with it, man, because the story's great.
Well, you saw that they doubled down late. Wasn't that yesterday that they doubled down with the whole Lando and the droid thing?
Yeah. I was watching the Dark Council from the distance, right? Watching it from the distance, right? And they were talking about it, and it's what's happening is that the day-to-day stuff still coming out of Lucasfilm is all these like young 25-year-old kids who are spouting all this like crap that they haven't thought about, right? Which is cool right now. And and there's so much of this stuff backlog that had been built up over the last several years, and we're seeing it coming out. I do believe the Disney is trying to rein all that crap in, but it's like a monster they've created. They clean out Lucasfilm of all these crazy people, which is maybe 80% of that staff. It's
like a Sarlacc pit threw up, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a process, and it's hard to get rid of these people. Even if Miss Kennedy moves on, her legacy remains, and also because the industry, even though it knows now the woke stuff doesn't work, it can't disassociate from it, because it fears that if they actually remove some of these people, that it'll be like, oh, well, you're supporting Trump and this and that. It's just like, man, these people don't know what they're doing. Get rid of them.
No. Because they're not writing stories.
Not writing good stories. No, I mean, they're just using political agenda and writing bad stories. I mean, you can have great stories with political agendas. The 70s had a bunch of those movies.
Star Trek did it. They did it perfectly, especially with TNG. But it's not about that anymore. They don't want to deliver a underlying story with a good script. They want to make their agenda the story and then throw the characters that everyone loves over top of it like a really crappy icing on a fruitcake. And what you get is verbal diarrhea with no point.
Yeah, you get these long speeches that are I mean, you don't even know who their speeches are for. It's like mental masturbation. These people are just speechifying to the writer who wrote it. I mean, because the audience don't care about the speech, right?
No. So. But yeah, I can agree. And wait, the one thing I forgot to mention before we get back to this quickly, you never told us what type of hero or villain you want to be.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's interesting because we had such a profound realizations from both you and Lorena. If for me, I have played the role of the villain my entire life, and I'm kind of used to that, right? I've always been the odd man out wherever I've been because, growing up a Muslim guy in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, I went to Dartmouth College, which is a very affluent white school, and I love it. And I went back there for graduate school. But these were kids that were spending their summers, in skiing in the Alps, right? And I'm like this poor immigrant kid who's like, who had welfare as a kid, right? And I got to this school, so I was very different from them. And then I come to Hollywood, and I'm practicing Muslim guy surrounded by largely secular atheist people, right? And so I don't fit in here either. And so my role has always been to be a little bit of the troublemaker in any environment that I'm in, which is, and my goal is to be a little of the catalyst, which I think the villain is. The villain forces change. The villain is a mirror that's held up to people. So I guess whether I like it or not, I've played the villain role. I'm playing the villain role right now because here I am, and being a proud member of the Fandom Menace. I've had fellow screenwriters say to me, "Man, I wish I had the guts to go on YouTube and say the stuff you're saying about Lucasfilm, but I don't want to screw up my career, man." I agree with you, but why would I burn that bridge? Why are you doing it? I'm like, you know what? I already burned that bridge because no matter what environment I'm in, I'm the adversary, right? And I tried to hide my politics, my religious beliefs, even I tried to keep them private. Doesn't matter. People project all kinds of stuff onto you. They look at your face, and you're not part of the club that they want. And even worse, and this is going to sound egotistical, but it's also true. When I came into Hollywood, people quickly discovered that I was very, very good at my job. In fact, I was better than a lot of them. And that became very threatening because I'm not supposed to be the person that can write.
Mhm.
One of the scripts I wrote for Sleeper Cell that was submitted for an Emmy nomination, I wrote it in 24 hours.
Wow.
I started writing it at 2 a.m. in the morning. I stayed up all night,
Oh
and I
my
finished
gosh.
it at 2 p.m. the afternoon and handed it in to my boss. And then that was largely filmed unchanged. A few edits were made, and then that was submitted by Showtime for Emmy for Best Writing, right? And
Wow.
that's not something most people in the industry can do. And the fact that this brown Pakistani Muslim kid, can do that is really, really threatening. And to make it worse, he's like pretty religious and he's conservative in his personal life and all of that. And he won't go along with the standard political narrative of the town. That's a real threat. And so I'm used to being the villain, and I'm at this point I've just owned it. I'm like, you know what? That's my job. I'm here to be a catalyst for you guys, because you guys are, like I said, you're all the Jedi. You're all sitting there stagnating, talking garbage to each other. It's a little council of echo chamber, right? I need to be the guy that shows up and says, you aren't all that you think you are. Let me show you what you are.
You do have evil eyebrows, though. You have very evil eyebrows.
You know what? We have definitely have to have Kamran back. I found out I just got scheduled for a meeting, and they ignored my do not disturb thing. So yes, we will definitely have to have you back on, Kamran, because this is so many people have so many questions.
Yeah,
but
I want to do an episode 2 with you.
Wanted to get you on, so we will definitely connect it and get you back on with that. And folks, thank you so much for watching. Oh my gosh, 35 people, 51 likes. You guys are amazing. Thanks so much.
Share my screen quickly for Abu. Can you share my screen quickly? Do you share my screen quickly? Because I don't think. Okay. There you go, Abu. Look, tiaras are cool. I just didn't get. There you go.
Abu Nas beating one of those abs, man. He's like,
he works out.
There, his prime. Look, check that out, man.
He works out, bro. He works out. I'm so dead. I am so dead.
You look like a butterfly, sting like a bee, Abu.
Ain't nobody gonna mess with you, dude.
Good night, people. Thank you for showing up.
Thanks for coming. We'll talk to you soon.